And we're live. Fantastic. Okay, we're here to talk about Search API and Solr. I'm going to split this into two different pieces. First, we'll talk about Search API, because you can use it without Solr. But Solr gives you some extra pieces that you will want. So I'm Lee Walker, the Principal Engineer at CodeJourneyman. I also run this camp. I'm Lee at CodeJourneyman, Twitter Drupalnooga, and Drupal Camp Atlanta is in a few weeks, so I'll give them a quick shout out. So I said two parts, Search API and Solr. When you guys, everyone's written some form of search for their website. And does anybody actually use the built-in Drupal search? No. You do? Occasionally.
I have before.
But I've used it before, but very quickly you realize. So what do you mostly do when your client asks you for a search? You build a view and put some exposed filters on it. And that's how you tend to do search. That's pretty much how everyone does search in Drupal. Very few people actually use the built-in search because it's not really that useful. It's an old relic from a long time back that hasn't had any real love. So I always say that your client comes in and says things like, I want it to work generally like Google does. It does suggestions for you. It does, it tries to autocorrect your spelling, and it actually gives you useful results. And so what they're asking for is ice cream. So what I want is search ice cream. And generally you give them this, which is search cold corn dog. I really hate corn dogs, by the way, so you can substitute your least favorite food on a stick if you want. But you know, corn dogs are okay if you like corn dogs, but when your client has asked for ice cream and that's what you give him, and generally when you do basic Drupal search, and a lot of the time even just views and exposed filters, really that's what you're giving them, is a cold corn dog. And what you want is ice cream. Now, there's problems with basic search, and it's a one-size-fits-all. It searches for everything on your site. It's very hard to configure. It's really ugly. You have to learn to theme just the search results, and it's really not that useful for the basic built-in Drupal search. And it's also the last thing you ever think about, generally, because it's the most ugly thing and annoying thing. So you tend to do all the fun parts and then get around to search afterwards. So you do use views with exposed filters. And this is great, because everyone knows how to theme views. They know what exposed filters are. You can tweak around things. You can get a much better result out of this. You cannot weight the searches. So you cannot say the title, if the word appears in the title, it's worth 8 times as much as if it appears in the body. And a lot of search, when you're tweaking search, it's all about weighting different parts in the index. And views won't let you do that. It's a lot better than the default search, but it's still not right. But at least you have ice cream now. You actually have a search that works, and you can make it look good. It's not as awesome as it can be, though, because you've still basically got vanilla ice cream. Plain old vanilla is good, but not good enough. So what can we do? This is where we can use Search API. Now, the Search API brings in a concept of indexes. So you can build a server, and one of the servers can be Solr, one of the servers can be actually in the database. So you can actually do the search in the database, which is one of the first examples, one of the first demos we're going to give. And then you can actually build different indexes on that server. So you can have an index just for users. You can have an index just for your products. So you can say, when you travel search, I just want them to find these products. I don't want to find users, I don't want to find news items, I don't want them to find. So you can actually build an index, multiple indexes on the same server, and then have different search boxes use different indexes and actually give different results. Which is something you can't do in basic search. You can do this in using views, but you'll see there's a couple of things that are more useful. The biggest useful thing is you can weight fields. We'll show you this in a minute. So when you build your index, you say, I want you to index, you've got your node, your title, your body, any of the fields you put in. you actually check boxes against them and say, this is what I want you to index in the, which one do you want, is this what you want to put in the search index? So they're actually searchable fields. Then you can say, but the title's worth 8 times as much as the body, and if it's a taxonomy tag, it's worth 4 times as much as it's in the body. There's a multiplier between 1 and however many. By default, they all get 1. You can actually make some less. And the nice thing is you can actually tweak that as well. So when you get search results, generally the first thing your client says is, oh, but I want this one to be at the top. And you're like, oh. And you need to tweak it a bit. So to do that, you have to tweak your index weighting. And we'll get onto that. One of the great things that Search API gives you, faceted search. So you can install the Facet API module, turn it on. Any of your indexes any of your fields that are being indexed, you can have facet automatically generated for that. So then a new tab appears in the search that said facets, and you can say, I want you to produce me a facet on taxonomies, for if something's, you know, a current news item or whatever it happens to be, on authors. Generally, things grouped together. You've used Amazon, you know what a faceted search is, you just haven't heard the name before. So if you search for computer monitors, down the left-hand side it will say by manufacturer, by price, by screen size. Each one of those is a facet. And the nice thing about facets is they always have results. A facet with 0 results doesn't actually appear on the screen. So you never click through and get no results, which is singly the most annoying thing in search, is typing all this thing in and no results. It will actually get rid of all of that. And you can produce lots and lots of facets and go nuts. You'll see them on Newegg and Amazon, and most of those people actually do use Solr to do it. Now Search API still uses views. So you're used to building your searches in views. With Search API, you still use views for that and exposed filters. Except instead of saying, this is of content type, whatever, you actually say, produce me a view based off the index that you created. So you actually search on the index. And that means it doesn't have to go and do all sorts of complex joins on your database to do stuff, because it's already been indexed for you. And autocomplete, which is actually great. If you start typing, it will actually suggest you things to search on, and those are actually values in your database. So if you start typing a title in, it will actually start auto-completing a title for you, and if you pick it, you're guaranteed a result, because it's actually gone and looked it up for you while you were sort of typing. So you've now got facets, autocomplete, and individual indexes. So you can just look up products, just look up your blog things, just do a search on your users if you want to do that. So now what you have is something much better. You have ice cream with sprinkles. Ice cream with sprinkles is better than ice cream, just ask any 4-year-old. Okay, so we're going to do a quick demo without Solr. So these are the modules you need. You need the Search API, which is the default one, and the Search API DB is actually the server you're going to use. So the DB says do this in the database. So then the Facets API, then obviously views, and the autocomplete module will do it as well. Let's flick over to, I'm going to have to quit out of that. Of course, I didn't check that. Okay. Oh, I can't see it on here. I have to turn around. Let's just move this around. There we go. Modules contrib. There's a bunch. So you see a bunch of the Search API. I've actually got the Solr installed, but I'm not actually going to use it right now. Okay, here we are. Oh, great, look at that. The screen's not big enough. Never mind. Where's my cursor? There we are. So we're going to have a quick look at the modules. Let's find our search. Wow, that's really a small So I've got the search API the DB turned on. What it will do is it will give you, I hope this is going to show on this such a small screen, in your search and metadata, now you've got a search API. And what I have here is created a couple of things already. So you can create a local, where's the pointer gone? Here we are. So one of the first things you have to do is create a server. And in this case, we've got a local database server. And if we look at that, we'll show you. It's actually really straightforward. So I give it a name, local database server, enabled it. And you can give it some basic information like, minimum word length. If you don't want it to index things less than 2 words, you can just turn all that off. And this is in the database one. But really, there's not really that many settings here. You just turn it on. And then the most interesting is in the index. So you can create an index. We'll call this one default node index. You pick a server from here, and I've created 2 Solr servers before, but this is in database. You can make it read-only if you want to, which always seemed a bit crazy to me, because how do you get things in your index if you make it read-only? The index items immediately, what that does is, the second you save, oh thank you Lisa, the second you save a new content type, it will go off a new piece of content. It will actually go off and say, go and index this right now. If you update it, it'll say, go and re-index this right now. And what it actually does is, doesn't wait for the cron to fire. Playing with Search API, you will spend an awful large amount of your life re-indexing your data. I do it dozens and dozens and dozens of times a day. Generally, I blow the index away and say re-index all my data, because I make some changes. You can let cron kind of catch up, but you're not entirely sure, until it's done 100% of it, you're not entirely sure the results you're getting are actually the changes you've made or some of the changes you've made. So when I start out, I delete the index, just say re-index the whole thing, thank you. Okay, so when you have an index, you can pick what fields. Yes, I think this is just a basic node. So you see your usual node ID, revision ID. Like I want to do the content type, I want to do the title, I want to do the author, the date created and changed, on the off chance that we're interested in that. Now, if you've got another content type, all of your fields will show up in here. Your taxonomy terms will show up in here. If they don't, there's this little thing down right at the bottom, the add related fields. You'll find they'll show up in here. So the tags are in here. You might find that your taxonomies end up in here. You just click and add fields, then they turn up there. I'm not entirely sure why they did that. I think they were just afraid it would be way too much information in one go. Generally what turns up in here is, you go, I can't index the body. Where the heck's the body? The body's in here. You have to go and add it and put it up here. Then you get the body text, body summary, body text format. So at this point, you have created an index, a server, and an index. Configuration, search API. And in this case, for user index, you'll see that, I didn't do this. Look on the fields, you'll see there's a name and an email, and that's about it, all I'm interested in. If you put the first name in and last name, you'll be able to put these things on as well. But that's an entirely separate index. Let's go back. I just realized I didn't talk about the boost. So site, no, that's not right. Configuration, system, search API. If you go back to the regular node index, and then look at the fields, here I can say that anything in the title is worth 5 times, treat it as 5 times more important than default. Most things get 1. Some things don't get any boost at all, because how are you going to tell a date is better, or generally it's text field, so you pick full text, you get to boost. So I can actually say that the body is worth half as much by picking an index like that. You'll spend a lot of time in here tweaking indexes to your client specifications. Let's go back. Oh, it's hidden up there. Okay, so what we have is a server in the database, and all we've said is use the database, and that's all the server is. Yeah, for a Solr one, you basically say use Solr and it's over there, and that tends to be, it's at this host on this port, and it will actually try and talk to it. Everything that goes to Solr goes over a URL, so you can actually issue all commands to Solr by typing in the URL bar, if you know how to string them all together. So now we have an index and we have a server, we should be able to build a view. So which ones would it? Let's just go and create a new view. Add a new view. That is really big. Can I make that? That kind of fits in there. Okay. Now the one thing you'll have, your indexes show up in here now. So we have the default node index. Normally you expect to see a content type in here. So files, content, my default node index, which is the index I created, actually shows up in here now. So you're like, oh, fantastic, I can actually create one based off that. And you'll see a lot of it goes away. So let's call this node test. I'll call this node test as well. Unformatted list of fields, that's fine, we'll take the same one, continue and edit. Oh, didn't give it a name. I thought I did. Okay, now the biggest difference here is what turns up in the fields is the stuff, it's index node. This is the stuff we've checked to be in our index, or the stuff that can be in the index. So you're actually, instead of doing joins across multiple tables when you do this, it actually goes straight to the index, which is a single table with all the information in, and pulls it out. So it tends to run faster. So we can pull out, where did the filter go? There. It's really hard looking over the back of your shoulder. We'll pull a title out. We should also pull out, there's another field. Pull the node ID, pull the title, I'm having a brain fart. The value that it gets, it'll actually spit you out the value of, what's it called? I forgot now. I know I should have written this down. Or is it, it's the search one, right. Relevance, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. So it will actually spit out relevance. So right now we have no relevance. Relevance is always 1 because we're returning everything, we're not giving it any information. And you do the same thing, you create an exposed filter, an exposed field to search on it. If we go views, I'll pull up one I've already done. User search, Solr search, search me, I think is the default one. So, what we've pulled up, there's a bunch of different things in there, but you can see it's all index node and search relevance. So, I'm doing a full text search. This is all, I've just used devel generate to generate me some basic content. So it's generated me users, it's generated me taxonomies, and they all kind of look lorem ipsum-y. So I can actually search on something. So this is what's the page? Search me. Let's do that. View page. So right now I have a bunch of stuff I haven't. And what I have down the side you can see here are facets. So I've got some articles, I've got some basic page. I told it to create 100, so I can filter just on articles off. And then I can continue to do this. So the first one's, let's take the second one. What's that one? It's called Gemino. So I can start typing and it will go and look up. When you turn the module on, it will look up the Gemino filter, and it will find. Now, all this isn't themed, it's just basic out of the box. But what it does return you is, you'll see your excerpts actually have bolded out Gemino here and Gemino here, the thing you've searched on. So it's worked out that it tells you what it's found in the search. Okay.
Lee, are you sorting your search based on relevance?
I'm not entirely sure that is. Let's go and have a look. And like that, it seems to me that the Gemino name should be, oh, it's off the end. These tiny screens really are a pain. Let's just search me. I don't think I have. So, sort by relevance descending. So maybe 2 or 3 of them turned up in the body, which is worth more than that. I'd have to play with. Now, if we go back to the index, when you turn on, if you go back to the index, when you turn on facets, the Facet API, you get this facets tab at the top. And now this is where the filter by author, facet by author, facet by content type, by tags, which is the basic article taxonomy. And when you turn autocomplete on, that's all you get. You say, which ones do you want to autocomplete? Autocomplete that view. So you have to build the view for the search index, and then come back here and it finds the view name to autocomplete, not the index to autocomplete. So it appears, and you click it, and there's nothing there, and you're like, what the heck's going on? And then you click it again later on, oh, no, why did that happen? And they're actually view names. That's actually a machine name for the view. So we've got facets, we've got autocomplete, and let's go back to the views, and go back to the search me. This is for the page. So you can theme it. Type, and I have facets. It's starting to look a bit like Newegg, where you can actually do that again. And a lot of this is facets. You turn them on and tell it what to build facets on. Autocomplete, you turn it on and tell it what view to use, and you build your view based on the index. So most of it is quite straightforward. It just build on one level next to the other. Now there are a couple of things that this doesn't give you that Solr does. I know Bob knows about this because it's been stuck in his craw for a while, which is the Solr will actually give you a more like this facet, or a piece of text and more like this, where it works out other things that are related, and it turns up in a block that will say more like this. And you don't have to build a view or do crazy, or actually, more to the point, you tend to, if you've got products and you want more like this of products, in Bob's case, sofas, you want other related sofas in the same sort of named brand or something. Solr will do that for you automatically. You don't actually have to curate that. Frequently you tend to sort of put taxonomies on things and tag things in certain ways so they turn up in the same, more like this. Because that's a hands-on, I have to curate that. And it's, the second they stop curating it, it goes out of date, and it's a pain in the butt. Solr will just automatically grab those for you. Getting Solr up and running isn't that hard. It is a Java application. You can get it running on your local box. You can simply download Solr, and it comes with Jetty inside of it. And Jetty is a small servlet container. And you can run the example one and you have it running. And actually I'm going to do that. So let's go back to this. Okay. So what you just saw was actually quite useful. I mean, it's much, much better than basic Drupal search and has significantly better functionality than views with an exposed filter. And it doesn't take that much to set up. Once you realize I've got to set up a server, then indexes that run on that server, and a server can have multiple indexes on it. You can create an index for each special case, and then a view with a page or a block for each special case of that. So you can actually put different searches around your site that do different things. The main reason you'll use Solr is even a database search is actually quite slow, and it does actually thrash your database quite hard. When you have 100,000 items in it and you go, off you go, it will go and do searches on in the database. So even a smallish site, you can get performance problems quite quickly. But the way to fix that is install Solr, recreate your indexes in Solr, now pointed at Solr. So all the work you've done, so you can now actually just be moved straight over to Solr. So you're not actually losing anything. Solr will actually give you a couple of extra things. Oh yeah, and the geospatial stuff. If you're ever trying to pull a map and say, I want to find other locations, doctor's offices, things like that. Like, I want to know doctor's offices within 5 miles of me that have a female doctor and specialises in oncology. And put the pins on a map, please. If your doctor has his thing, you can actually run that through Solr, and Solr will just go here. Because Solr will actually pre-calculate a bunch of this. And so it doesn't actually do a thrash. When you give it to Solr, Solr goes off and indexes things and does all interesting things together. In the spatial search, you can give it a bunch of different functionality, which is generally the simplest and the easiest, the quickest to come back is a coordinate and a bounding box. You can actually say, it takes it in kilometres. Centred on Chattanooga State within 5 miles, which you convert into kilometres. But it actually and it says it's going to be a radius, but it's really a box, because it's much easier to calculate. Now, Solr, if you look on their site, they basically say, if your use case requires people to type text into a box and search on it, you need Solr, which is pretty much everything. They've basically said, we are the use case for the world at this point, is what they've said. So it's its own service in Java. Now, one of the fantastic things it can do is if you uploaded PDFs, you've uploaded docx, Microsoft Documents, anything, and attached them to this content type, using a secondary service called TCA, Solr will index that document as well. So it will actually turn you relevance based on data inside your PDF, which is something that nothing else does as far as I know. You can have synonyms as well, so you can say things like biscuits, cookie is cake. Cake and cookie are interchangeable terms. But biscuits only means biscuit. Yeah, and you can actually tell it that things, and there's also you can ignore some words for being indexed, which generally is the biggest file of swear words you've ever seen. That's generally what it does. And this is something else your clients will always ask for. That's great, but I want this one at the top. And they just want a special case to promote things to the top. And Solr will let you do that. You can actually say, I want this thing promoted, and then turn the promotion off, and it'll fall back into its usual slot. Solr also does stemming, so it'll break words apart, doctors, doctor, baseball as a word into base and ball. All of the of things, it rips all of those out. And it also will take mu and acute and things and turn them into regular for us Western letters. So it's easy, you don't actually have to go and, oh, I need to turn on UTF-8 character input to type one of those in. How do I do that? Just put, if it's an E with any kind of circumflex over it, just type E. Yeah, doctor practitioner, same thing. So I buzzed his earlier on, so it's only fair that we do drone. Okay, so we can do a quick demo turning Solr on. Now, getting Solr running on your local box isn't actually that hard. Let's fall out. I'll just show you. Okay. Where are we? Contrib. Module. Oh, no. Not module filter. Search API Solr. If you look in here, there's this Solr conf directory. It's really hard typing one way and looking the other. And then there's a 3x and a 4x. If you look, you'll find that there's a version 3 of Solr and a version 4 of Solr. Version 3 hasn't been touched since like December of last year. Version 4 is going on like there's a rocket strapped to it. I mean, like every 3 weeks, new stuff comes out. They both do geospatial. 4 does it a lot better. Interestingly, 3, you can pull geospatial results out and you can order them by distance away, but it won't return actually what the distance is. I ran into this, and I'm like, but I'm sorting by it. Like, just spit 2 miles out, please, or 2.5 miles out. It doesn't want to do it. There probably is a way of doing it, but it doesn't turn up in any of the fields that you can spit out. But it does turn up in the fields that you can sort on. So I don't know why that is, but it all works perfectly well in 4. So if we go to the 4x, in here you'll see a bunch of these XML, and these are just the configuring files for Solr. Now you copy all of these into Solr directory and start up Solr. And now Solr is configured to work with Drupal. You don't have to dick around with the schema XML. I have. It basically tells, these files tell Solr how to deal with Drupal. They've been configured for Drupal. There are some things like, sometimes when you get a date and you collect an end date, now you want to sort on dates. Which date do you sort on? And Solr considers, the general default, it considers dates to be what's called a multi-value field. So it won't let you sort on them by default. But you can actually mess with schema and add an extra thing and say, make it a multi-value field, but also make it a single value field, only reading the first date, or only reading the last date. And then both of those values will actually turn up, and you can spit out what you want. That's the only time I've ever messed with these XML files, is to get date sorting to work right. So, we want Solr. Where are we? Okay. Solr conf. Yeah. It's much harder than you think looking sideways. Where did I put it? Did I run it in here? Okay, so I just downloaded, here I've downloaded Solr 4.9. So I downloaded the tarball, I extracted it here. Solr 4.9, if you look in here. Now there are actually differences between 3 and 4. Like 4, they just call it Solr. In 3, they call it ApacheSolr. I'm not entirely sure what the difference is, but they've changed the layout slightly. But this example one, you can actually run the example version of it. So you've got, I think it's Solr conf, is it Solr conf? No, it's collection 1. Yeah. Then there's conf. And here's these configuration files again. So you literally copy out of the search API Solr 4x conf all of those files, just copy them in here and overwrite them. That's all you need to do. And now your Solr instance is configured to understand Drupal. So we are up one more. And then there's this start.jar. And to run a local copy of Solr, we're running out of time. We just java-jar start.jar. And that actually runs Jetty, which is the servlet engine that's installed in this. And it will spit all this. This is what Java logging looks like. And it will spit all of this information out. And you're like, what the heck does that mean? The easiest way to find out is, let's go to here. Let's do localhost now. I seem to remember 8983, is that right? /Solr. Oh, I spit. Ah! Where am I? Now I've lost my pointer. Is that working now? I think I put it on 89. Yeah, it auto-filled for me, didn't it? No, let's find it. Let's find out that again. You just Control C out of this, and you go into Etsy, and there's a jetty.xml. Let's look for port. 8984. I was a port off. Okay. I was nearly right. 8984/Solr. And you know it's running when that doesn't work. I didn't restart it, that's right. Yes. The old version 3, the very last thing it said was, Solr started on, and it would put a port number there. Now that is in here somewhere, but it's higher up and it tends to scroll off the screen. Okay. So Solr's up, and we've got now you saw the collection 1, so what you'll see is this collection 1 is the default name. So the Solr's up and running, but technically we've put nothing in it, but I've ran this on it before. But that basically tells us Solr is up and running. So if we go back to and configure, let's do modules. I tend to not poke around the config anymore. I tend to try and find it in here, and it's off the end. Okay, I'll configure it this way. System. So in this case, you've actually got to create a new server, because now you're not in the database anymore. Now you actually want to talk to Solr. So you actually need to create a new server. And I happen to name one, so we'll just show you what this is. So I just called it local Solr. What's the local host? 8984. The Solr path by default generally is /Solr. Solr is the most pants down to the internet application I've ever seen. It does if you've got it up and it's on a port that's available to the internet, you talk to it over HTTP, people can just do anything they want. They can go delete the index, change some configuration things on it, they can do it. You need to lock down Solr. So you need to put it behind your firewall with no external ports. Yeah. They do no security whatsoever on it. They actually expect you to do all of that. So talk to your DevOps guys and make sure that your Solr box, wherever it happens to be, is not available. Another way to do it is actually say, have a username. Oops. Should avoid that. Have a username and password to actually talk to Solr. I think I messed it up. So all that happens here is we put the information in. If you hit save and it doesn't say everything's okay, then you've done something wrong. But the configuration is your host, the port it's on, and it's always /Solr generally. I've never used anything other than /Solr, so I'm not entirely sure why they do that. I guess there must be something else. So now we have a server, but we have no indexes. We need to go ahead and create indexes. So I've created a node index. And again, it's exactly the same. It's at this time we pick the local Solr, which is what I named the Solr service. So generally, picking good names is really, really useful for this, because if you just go, oh, it's this, you're like, oh, I don't know, was that a Solr index or it wasn't a Solr index? If you put the names on it, when they turn up in your views drop-downs and things like that, they're self-explanatory. But they do say that there's two hard things in computer science: naming things and cache invalidation. Because it doesn't matter what you name it, sooner or later the name's wrong. So we've got a node index, and again, what we do here is we create a view. So now we've got an index, we'll create a view on it. So do the same way, I've actually got a search me, and now we've got a Solr search. And this is all the same. All of this works exactly the same way as the one you did in the database. So if you've started with the database and realized you've outgrown it, you can put Solr in and reuse all of the work you've already done. You don't have to kind of start from scratch. The only difference is if we create a new view, if you go to create, add new view, and it's show, and this time you'll do a Solr node index, because that's the name of this is where the naming convention really helps, yeah? Because you've got node index. Is that a Solr one or is that not a Solr one? Especially if you're mixing them. Generally you'll use one or the other, but good naming helps here. So you'll pick your index that's in Solr, and then build the view exactly as you do, expose filters, everything you normally do. So everything you've done in views before, it's all transferable over. And we end up with let's pick the view up. So we've got a Solr search. So let's actually view the page. Oh, that wasn't quite what I was after. Now the difference in a Solr search is you can turn on, you can have them more like this. Do we have them more like this in here? No. It will also do, I don't know, let's do the Benny. It's going to look up all of the things. And here, now, this is something it does. It gives you this. Did you mean this? Which is something that Google does. When you type something in, it's like, oh, you typed that in. Did you mean something else? And that generally makes your clients quite happy. And that is another module for Solr. You literally just turn that on. All of these things are blocks. So you just drop them on the page as you drop blocks on the page. I've got this caught, the wire caught. There we go. Anything else? So the facets work in exactly the same way. Now the biggest difference is, because Solr does all these pre-calculations for you, Solr will actually hand you back everything that's on this page. So you don't have to load the node, you don't have to do anything. Solr has actually already done this for you. One of the things they have come back is a snippet. So it will actually return you a snippet text, which is this excerpt, and it will actually find the words that you search on and highlight them. You don't have to do that. That's all a configuration. You can say highlight the words, don't highlight the words, all of that. It's a lot faster, a lot faster. It gives you the did you mean, and it also gives you, for those of you that do need the related products or related items thing that's very important to your client, it gives you that straight out the box and means you don't have to curate it. A curated one is just a pain in the butt, and they curate it for the first month and then they forget about it, and then the search results are all... Literally, you turn it on and let Solr do its job, and it will keep everything up to date. What are we doing for time? Okay. So let's go back to this. I know that was a ridiculously fast run through like a dozen search modules. But there's really not that much terrible configuration. Once you've got the idea that you create a server, then you create indexes on that server, and you index fields to go in the index of that server, and create multiple indexes, and you create views based off each of those indexes, you can create all of your stuff. So you've gone from cold corn dog to vanilla ice cream to ice cream with sprinkles, and now when you've got this, you can give them this. Which now you get ice cream. Now that's quite clearly better than ice cream with sprinkles. That's ice cream with more sprinkles. I couldn't choose between the two, so I put both of them on. But that's it. If your client says, I want something, they're thinking vanilla, and you come to them and you give them that, they're going to be just like, ah! Why isn't it so easy on the rest of the site? They ask. Why does the search work so well? And okay, I guess one of the other questions we should talk about is there's another module called the ApacheSolr module. ApacheSolr, all one word smashed together, that runs on Drupal 6 and Drupal 7. The guy who does Nick Vernhoff and Acquia are actually quite big on talking about ApacheSolr, but the search API is kind of one, and in Drupal 8, the guy Drunken Monkey is his username. On D.O, he's doing the search API and moving it to 8. And the guys that work on ApacheSolr module are actually Nick Vernhoff and everyone is working on Search API Solr, the plugin to Search API for Drupal 8. So Search API will be what you get in Drupal 8. So if you're used to using Solr, ApacheSolr module, that's gone in Drupal 8.
So you're talking about Drupal 8 core? He's working on that for Drupal 8 core or for a contrib module?
It's a contrib module, yes. But it wouldn't surprise me if Search API gets sucked in as the core search and replaces it, because it tends to be what everyone uses now. As someone who's spent a huge amount of time writing ApacheSolr hooks, it's just kind of annoying because now I have to relearn all the hooks in Search API. But I did it recently, which is why I came up with this, decided to do a presentation on it, because it's just really awesome when you get it working. You're like, yeah! And now I just need to override my my views templates in the same way I've been doing for years and change my search results. It's all views, it's all done. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions?
I got one quick one.
Go ahead.
So, if you have, let's say you build a view application, like, let's say a directory, a person directory, and you have a view, and you want that to appear in your search results. Maybe someone.
You want a view to appear in a search results.
So maybe someone's stupid and can't find the directory in the menu system.
You've been working with Charles.
Yeah.
Now that's kind of odd because generally a view is a list of things.
Right.
And when you search, you tend to get a thing.
Right.
I guess you could give your view, and I'm not even sure you can index views.
Yeah, that's the problem we've been running into.
So you want to have a page that is a view of things turn up in the search results. Generally, that's the page you go to. I'm not even sure you can do that. I'm not even sure where to start on that.
Maybe the best way to handle that is to put, maybe you put a header on your search view that says common links or common.
But you still have to index it.
Yeah, that's true.
And a view is dynamically built content.
But I mean, maybe you put a static link on your search view
Oh,
that says, are you looking for the directory? Go here. I don't know. I'm thinking from just from our experience here, people, they'll bypass the menu system and type something in search and expect it to come up.
Yes.
They type a name in and want that name to pop up.
Yeah, exactly.
Of a faculty member.
Yeah, but if you type a faculty, as long as you've themed the faculty member as a node.
Right.
I mean, you could always put at the bottom, did you meet someone else? And then have them be able to type in or click a link and go to that view. But views are dynamically generated content depending on the content that's in. So I don't see how you...
You see our problem, but yeah.
You're using views to display a single thing, aren't you? Is what you're doing. Yeah, you probably just want to do... probably just want to put a node theming on it and be done. Yeah, I wasn't even sure how to do that. You probably have to abuse the heck out of the hook system to get that to work. Okay, anything else? Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Enjoy the lunch is outside. Let's quit.